child development's the same wherever you are in the world, and children need to play wherever you are in the world. Look at what you guys have got around you and start from there. Don't try and force something that's not there.
Hi, this is Rusty Keeler, and you're listening to the Play Nature Podcast, where we talk about play, nature, playing in nature, and the nature of play. I'm glad you're here. Let's have a listen. Hi, Louise.
How are you?
Yeah, great. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah, really good. Lots of exciting stuff happening, so really good.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to jump in
Yeah.
with you and hear about what's exciting that's going on. And I'll just start by saying that I was, so I saw you at the symposium. That's where I first
Yeah.
met you and was aware of your work. And I just love your enthusiasm and energy. And yeah, the world is changing because you're rock and rolling out there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So why don't I read your bio and then
Yep.
we can just jump in.
Yeah.
Louise Licznerski, an educator, outdoor learning advocate, and entrepreneur. After training as a teacher and working in a variety of educational settings, she became passionate about creating more inclusive and nurturing ways for children to learn and thrive. Together with her husband Paul, she founded Little Bugs Outdoor Nurseries, which provides child-led, nature-based early years education. She's the founder of Wild Bugs, a school-aged outdoor provision that offers children opportunities to learn, play, and develop through meaningful experiences in nature. Alongside that, she serves as the director of the Scottish Outdoor Learning Association, SOLA, helping to champion outdoor learning and play across Scotland. She also founded We Foragers, which focuses on bringing locally sourced, sustainable whole foods and food education to children. And looking ahead, she's excited to launch Prairie and Pine, a training company that will provide Scottish-based and international training opportunities for educators and practitioners who want to deepen their understanding of outdoor learning, play, and child development. Across all her work, she's driven by a belief that children flourish when they are given the freedom to play, explore, take risks, and connect with the natural world.
Yeah, there I am.
There it is. There she is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yes, so you are on a mission.
Yeah, a mission indeed. Yeah, a mission. A mission. I like to view it as an adventure, and that anything is possible, right? Anything's possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, you are, yes, you are pushing the needle in so many different ways. So I'm excited to talk to you about all those different things, from the outdoor nature in the preschools, and then the school age stuff, the food stuff. I think then also like the collective, the voice. I think that to really make change in what's going on, and then
Yeah.
what you're training. But why don't you just take us back to the beginning? How did you start on this,
Yeah.
and where did it
Well, I
go?
like to say that in a previous life, as a child learning in the Scottish education system, I always felt that it wasn't well developed for children who like to think outside the box. And I was certainly one of those children. Had dyslexic tendencies. I was never, identified as dyslexic until I actually got to university stage. And I watched myself and my youngest brother really find education difficult in Scotland. But, we had those tendencies back then, 20, 30 years ago, to say, oh, well, they're not clever. So I always wanted to do teaching in some way, but I never felt clever enough to do that. So I actually left school with reasonable grades and headed off to university. And in a past life, I did business management, consumer studies, and retail studies, and worked for a large chain department store. And working in that, I was thinking, I'm not fulfilled. This is not what I want to do. So I went back and did a postgrad in Scotland, which you do for 1 year, and then you're a qualified teacher. Um, and it just made me feel so alive to be with these kids, and it was just so great. And my first placement was in a real area of deprivation, and I had 23 kids, and out of those 23 kids, 18 of them had additional support needs and English as an additional language.
Okay.
So I had a lot of Polish children, I had a lot of Chinese children. So it wasn't even just one language. I had to like really like, be diverse about the way that I was teaching these kids. And actually, the best way that I found to do that was to take them outside because nature's one language.
Mm. Mm.
And we would go into woodland and we would learn phonics by using sticks like wands, like Harry Potter, and we would talk about the English words for a leaf or a flower, and all those aspects of learning outdoors in that woodland. And those children just thrived. And I loved it. I loved every second of being able to take those kids outside. And also for them being from an area of deprivation, a lot of them didn't have gardens. They stayed in like apartments, flats. So yeah, and then I then went to another primary school, and with older children, and I had a long list of complex needs in that class as well, children that didn't really cope with being indoors. So again, took them outdoors, and then moved on to I had my own children, and then moved on to a learning support role within the council as well. Um, and all I would do every day at the desk, Rusty, is I would sit and do referrals to like pediatricians about why this child has ADHD. And actually, at the time I had just discovered Richard Louv, and I was looking a lot about nature deficit disorder. And I was like, no, we just need to get these kids outdoors.
Mhm.
So it was really quite frowned upon because I wasn't meeting the tracking and monitoring in a typical school way, in a typical Scottish school way. There was lots of language that I think was like really affecting young people at the time and their ability to do things. In the terms of like, oh well, they're not very bright. I remember one teacher saying to me, well, they're not exactly going to set the heather alight. But then when I took these kids outside, they were incredible. The system for me wasn't changing fast enough in the way that I wanted to change it. So one day I came home and I said to my husband, Paul, I think we should look at younger years, and I think we should open an outdoor nursery. Um, and he was like, okay, amazingly, okay.
Okay.
And he's like a BT engineer. He has no educational background, but he's very practical.
Hmm.
So yeah, so we went round, and the first place for me to hit up was the Scouting Association, and they had headquarters just up the road from where I stay, and they were delighted to lease us a bit of land. And we had some hurdles to get over and some red tape in terms of risk and transportation to the site, etc. And just what a traditional nursery, the planning regulations weren't in line for what a nursery should look like. So we had to be really clever about it and problem solve. So we opened our doors, and I remember standing in the woods. We opened in at the beginning of May. I remember standing in the woods in July crying and saying to my father-in-law, what have I done? I've employed all these practitioners. I can't afford them. We don't have enough children. And that was July. And by the time January came, we had 47 children and we were completely full.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was just
Yeah.
like, I don't
Yeah.
know why I was ever worried. I wasn't
Well,
worried. So with that
you took a
came,
risk. You took a big
I took a
risk.
risk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we took a huge risk. And then with that came our second site in South Queensferry, a different council area, and a lot of barriers again with that. But again, here we were, and that slowly but surely started to fill up too. So yeah, and what we were seeing from these children were children who were straight out of COVID, whose parents were taking them to traditional indoor settings, and they were having to close the door on them. They were put in a room, and then the door shut, and their parents were on the other side. And these kids were like freaking out because these people were the only people they had seen for like a year, 2 years of their short lives. Whereas
Hmm.
at Littlebug, parents were encouraged to come in, stay and play with their children, and that instantly put everybody at ease and instantly calmed everybody down. And then we were, as that's just been open for 5 years now at Fordle, and it's been a whirlwind. But what we've seen is just children, the regulation and emotional well-being of our children and our parents, our families that are coming into our setting is just like nothing I've ever seen before. And what's followed on beautifully from that is we've proven a model that works so successfully. And now local authorities and other settings are coming to us saying, can you show us the same? And what are you doing? Can we replicate this in our settings? And we're saying, yeah, we'll show you, because ultimately it's only the children that benefit, right? And if we can
Hmm.
spread it, then yeah, it's infectious.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's part of it too, of like you showing, trying out your idea. Okay, does this work? Will this be beneficial? You believe it, we believe it. But then to see it and work, and then the idea of like, yeah, let's get this out there. Let's
Yeah.
make those changes. So, okay, so then what do you see when children come in? What are they like? Maybe, you talk about like dysregulation or, kids having a hard time. What are they like before they come? What are they like in it? What happens in little bugs? And
Yeah.
then yeah, what changes do you
I
notice?
think, we take children from 2 right the way up until 5 years old for our nursery settings. And a lot of other settings won't take 2 year olds. But for
Okay.
me, I feel like your emotional intelligence starts way younger at 3, right? So to me, it's like, right, let's set this up properly. If these children are need that emotional regulation to come in. So what we're seeing is a lot of our 2 year olds and 3 year olds that are coming for their preschool years, they're they're coming in upset because they're leaving their parents. Some of them come in really enthusiastically, but some of them still coming in upset, and that's just, that's the separation anxiety part of it.
Yeah.
But we're allowing parents to come in, and then we don't have those 4 walls, so children don't feel contained. So they start off small and investigating small areas of our base camp, and then they start to get bigger and bigger, and they start wandering. And for our children, that has given them the sense of freedom to know, if I'm not happy in this space, or if this space is getting too busy for me, I can step out and I can go to a quieter space. So I would say the space aspect of it is really important. And at both our sites, we've got what we call base camps. So these are fenced off areas that are completely outdoors but are completely secure, and they're chestnut pale fencing, so it's nice looking. It's not like a prison. And I think our families feel happy with that because they know that their children are safe but still outside. So, if a child is feeding from their parents' anxieties, then that's not going to help them. So if we can get those parents settled and trusting and building a relationship with them, that then supports those children. Then they start, there's a lot of pro-perceptual play, playing alongside each other. Then the friendship groups happen. And then what starts to happen is the energy comes out. So we'll go through a period of those kids running around crazy, but they're free to do so. They're kids and they're burning off that energy. And then they can regulate themselves and know when it's time for them to have a rest period. And they'll maybe fancy going and engaging in an activity, or practitioners are there to have discussions with them. And then the curiosity element comes out. So everything that we do is learning through play. It's completely child led, but we still do have some starter activities. So children are way more inquisitive, less shy, and are, because they know that they can step out at any time and they don't have to engage. They don't have to, there's the expectation is taken off of them. So it's a really relaxing place, and it really allows them to evolve and be who they want to be whilst learning from other age groups. So we have mixed ages. So all the children are together from 2 right the way up to 5.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
having those mixed age groups, the younger ones are learning from the older ones, and the older ones are nurturing the younger ones. It's just such a beautiful sight to see.
Yes, love it. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's different than normal education, typical
Yep.
education.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So we have that aspect of that's the kind of daily running. Then what's really interesting is that when the seasons start to change and how the children engage in the environment, because what's happening is they are going through natural transitions, but they don't realize they're transitioning through everything. So when a child, one of the biggest things as an educator working in the school system, one of the most challenging things were those transitions to different spaces or to different subjects. And that's where we would see distressed behavior as a teacher, trying to get children to move from one aspect to the other. But what's happening even in just being in nature and that seasonal is the seasonal change happens so subtly that they don't even notice. And then you start to see them working out, oh, it's really sunny outside, so I can take my jumper off and I am enjoying water play. Or it's really cold outside, and if I leave this puddle of water overnight, I know I'm coming in the next game morning, it's going to be frozen. So
Mhm.
it's about those transitions and those learning opportunities. And I think that really supports well-being and their nervous systems as well, and really keeps them calm.
I love that.
And then you've got the aspect of mud, where they're like, everyone freaks out about mud. And I'm like, no, they have the best immune systems ever, these kids. Like, they never get sick. And if they are off, it's probably because they've either grazed or bumped, or, it's very rarely like things like chicken pox. We don't get outbreaks of chicken pox. We've had a few bugs, but never cold and flu like you get in an indoor setting. So parents love us for that.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. That's amazing. It's like you have the connection of both the microbes and getting in and all that, all the good
Yeah.
stuff, and then of course no walls and fresh air
Yeah.
and all that. But gosh, just going back, I love that idea of the nature, connecting with nature in the rhythms of it, the changes of it,
Mhm.
the cycles of the season. And just
Yeah.
that idea of like we are part of that. Like we have our own cycles and we have go through our own changes, and
Yeah.
the idea that putting children in those rhythms is
Hmm.
natural and beautiful and healthy, and they can be in those rhythms. I've been thinking a lot about the idea of earth speed,
Absolutely.
and yeah, so you were just putting them right in there compared to
Yeah. And even
four walls and fluorescent lights.
exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say. They can work out even when it's winter time here. Obviously, when they're coming in, it's dark. So they like to come into a cozy space, and they can regulate their self. They come into the yurt, they've got a fire, they have a bowl of porridge. Then as soon as it starts getting light, they're out again. They're like chickens. Do you know, chickens go into their coop when the sun sets, and they'll watch our chickens in our setting and say, "Oh, they're going in because it's bedtime." So it's like they're able to naturally, go with the rhythm. And I think that's so good
Wow.
for your exposure to sunlight, and actually your body understanding those natural rhythms of it's morning time, it's nighttime, it's getting later because it's getting darker, and they take themselves in, or they know that it's time to go and watch the stars, or they know what nocturnal animals are coming out. We're so lucky to have those, nature aspects there, bats and things and owls, that they know when they come out. So they start to it's a natural rhythm. It's a natural rhythm.
Yeah, yeah. Gosh, and just to think of like how that is for the immune system, the nervous system,
Yeah.
and the learning and the growing. It's funny because I remember you talked about in your talk about the education system being outdated. So I mean
Yeah.
that's a big topic right there and a big thought. But the idea of like what we're talking about here is actually before that. It's like
Yeah.
we're talking about bringing the ancient to
Yeah.
the future, to the now.
Yep.
Whatever the education system was, factory, getting kids all together
Hmm.
and teaching them the ABCs and whatever for a certain time period. But it's not like now we need something deeper, more human.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, if we look at those well-being aspects of our young people, not just in early years, but right the way through primary school, we're putting them in classrooms with fluorescent lights, and we're wondering why they're depressed. Do you know? And
Yeah.
like, their sad disorder is a thing. Like, the seasonal deficit, disorder is a thing. And I just think, if more, even our staff just say how great it is for their immune system. They're not in fight or flight, and they're not exhausted. They work through the darker months of the year, but they're not completely exhausted because they're able to settle in with the natural rhythms of what we should be doing. And I think that just takes a massive pressure off the nervous system and helps us regulate emotion hugely.
Yeah. Yeah. And they get to be outside. They get to be outside
Yeah.
and experiencing whatever light is there in the darkest time of the year,
Yeah.
as opposed to like if you're in a classroom and then by the time you get out of school, then it's
Yeah.
dark and you had no time outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, so you saw this for the wee ones,
Yes.
but and then what happened next? You just thought, was it parents? Was it you thinking, wait, we got to just keep this going for the older kids? Yeah.
So I guess when I stepped into education, so I had never really worked in nursery before I opened up an outdoor nursery. I had been primary one,
Okay.
which is like grade one, kindergarten stage over in the States. So that's the lowest level I'd worked at. So for me, if I could have possibly opened up an outdoor primary school first, that's probably what I would have done.
Hmm.
But the facilities were there for our youngest children. I thought, I'm going to go with it, and I'm going to see how that goes. And then what was happening was children, I saw how great this was. So I started to try and edge into local schools and with colleagues that I'd worked with before. So we ran lots of projects with teachers going in. And I suppose this is where the frustration comes from the system, because I'm a private entity going in and going, here you go. This is what I can do to support you. And they took it. And as soon as I withdrew my support because I felt that they were ready to keep running with it, it just stopped.
Hmm.
So I thought, actually, I'm going to have to. I think you can fight a system, but until you show people how to do it and they watch you do it and they watch it be successful, then like that little light bulb goes off and they're like, yeah, we'll run with that. So we had some children over at our South Queensferry site whose parents were like, oh, can you, laughing and joking, can you not open up an outdoor school? I was like, listen, I'm working on it.
Yep.
They believed me as well. They believed me.
They're like, yeah,
You know how
yeah.
nuts I am. That's right. So, totally, nobody questioned.
Right.
And so we took two or three children that weren't coping in school, and they did flexi school with us. So they attended traditional schooling for part of the week, and then they came to us. So it started at three children. Then this year it moved to eight children on a Friday, and then next year we already had 16 children enrolled on a Friday.
Mm.
And I was like, to my team, let's push it. And they were like, so we've got this mantra at Little Bugs, and it's go big or go home. So we're going big. So we are now opened up spaces for primary 1 to 3, so children 5 to 8, on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at Wild Bugs,
Okay.
and those 3 days are almost full with 16 children at
Wow.
each point.
Yep.
So then a few weeks ago, I thought, right, why don't we open up primary 4 to 7, so the 8 to 12-year-olds? And we had our open evening for that last night, and it was a really great success. So those children are going to start coming on a Monday. So already we filled 4 days, and schools are actually quite happy to allow children to access that learning because we can prove what learning is taking place. So we're tracking and monitoring using the curriculum. We hand over the evidence to either the school if the child is still at school, or if they're home educated, the evidence goes to the parents. So we're still tracking and monitoring. We're still linking everything to the curriculum for excellence. But what we're doing is making things equal for children. And that's not by putting in, every child has a pencil. It's by allowing that child to have different ways of using that pencil or that stick, or we're giving them the tool, but then we're letting them use it in their own way. And I think that's quite refreshing for parents, and a lot of our children are now able to cope better going to school for the 3 to 4 days that they're going, with knowing that they have wild bugs at the end of the week or partway through their week. So
Hmm.
again, that's their emotional regulation, and they're happy with that. So yeah, it's going really successfully. I mean, I spoke when we had the thing with Stramash, and the conference with Stramash. The reason that early years is taken off and outdoors in early years is taken off is because we've got our funded hours. So parents have been given that choice and they don't have to pay for that. And I think that has just absolutely unlocked a door and
Hmm.
swung it right open for them to walk through that and experience something that many parents and families want for their children and many children need. And I think,
Could you just describe, because over here in the States we don't do
yeah.
it like that. So can you just quick in a nutshell describe what that funding is for
So,
parents?
so the Scottish Government give every 3-year-old 1,140 hours of funded childcare. It
Yeah.
comes with its problems. Not, it's good, but it's not. It's
Sure.
it's really it's really great that we can offer alternative learning environments through that. So we are a funded provider. We're a private company funded provider, but children can also use that in their local authority nursery as well, which is normally attached to school and run by the council. And they can use it with a childminder as well. So if a child
Oh.
feels like they need that wholesomeness, I guess what you guys have got, like under 12 children, like home daycare, don't you? So that's like
Hmm.
our childminder here.
Oh, okay.
So they can use that there as well. So if a parent feels that their child would benefit from more of a home care, then their funding can still be used there, and that's really great. the way that the funding is distributed is a whole other topic, and it's putting the private sector under a mass amount of pressure, and it's currently being explored by the Scottish government. But what it is giving the ability to our families and our young people is to vote with their feet, and for parents to say, I don't want the traditional education
Yeah.
system anymore. I want something alternative. And Rusty, I honestly think that if they funded schooling in this way, there would be a mass exodus of the current system,
Wow.
and everything would change. Everything
Wow.
would change. And I would say that is the only barrier to the school age outdoor learning that we are providing, is that parents have to privately pay for that.
Right. Right. Huh. That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. To be able to choose
Yeah.
to this form that we're seeing is so beneficial, and okay. Well, so with I guess with Sola, I guess maybe we're getting here to talk about change and things,
Mm. Yeah.
um, yes, you talked about having a collective voice,
Yeah.
finding your people, having a collective voice, going big or going home, and not staying quiet. Quiet.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
tell me about that. So there's a whole other track with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, when we first opened up our nurseries, there was lots of barriers in terms of what I've already spoken about what a traditional nursery setting looks like, and how that looks, to a council who have planning, or in the States it's zoning permission. So we have to go to our council and say, we're opening up this nursery, and we need planning permission in order to open that up. And you put in this really long, expensive application, and it takes about a year for it all to come through, and it's very stressful. But the planners in that department are sitting looking at you like you're a traditional nursery, and trying to explain to them that actually, no, we're fully outdoors, and we don't need a square footage of room space because we have fields and forests, and I can measure those for you. But so that in itself was a challenge, and that was one of the biggest barriers that faced us when we first started. Um, so on that track, I thought, I can't be alone in this. So I started to reach out to people who also had outdoor nurseries, or that were in the outdoor sector. So Thrive Outdoors, Mary Ferris, absolute legend, was so helpful, and pointed to guidance that the Scottish Government had provided. So our general Scottish Government, the way that it sits, and our Key Inspectorate and Education Scotland have created so many documents to support this way of learning, and you just need to know where they are and how to access them.
Mm.
But it's like a booklet of how to. It's like a dummy's guide for outdoor nurseries. So Mary pointed me in the direction of this, and then I started to reach out to other outdoor nurseries. And what we were finding was a lot of common issues that we had. So things like guidance was going to be set up, because we are regulated by the Key Inspectorate here and Education Scotland in some instances. So guidance has been set up, and it only takes into account indoor settings. And we're saying, well, what about the outdoor settings? And collectively coming together from different parts of the country has been just so incredible and so positive, and it's got us a seat at the table with the people that make the decisions. And
Mm.
now we're able to say, well, I have this problem in the central belt of Scotland, and Cameron at Stramash has this problem up in the Highlands. Like, this is a generic problem across Scotland. What are we going to do? And
Yeah.
there's just so many answers to that, and so much support, and you don't feel alone. And sometimes it's just silly things like problem solving. Oh, I don't have running water, and somebody saying, well, we used a Yeti tank that keeps the water warm for like 5 hours, and we just take it up into the forest, and it just starts to make your life so much easier because you're not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, you're stronger together. People who have,
Absolutely.
done different things. You have knowledge that they don't. They have knowledge that you don't. And then
Yeah.
the collective voice as a force. People can feel alone in all this stuff or bumping their heads against things. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we first started, there was only 25 nurseries, outdoor nurseries. In the last 5 years, we think it's gone up to about 70 if we take into account satellite sites. And what I mean by that is nurseries that have a physical building, but then take their children off site for days at a time. That's what we call a satellite site here. So by collectively coming together, the movement grows as well, because people go, oh, well, they can do that. And that's actually just down the road from me. I'm going to visit that. And then it's, it's about putting the voice out, and collectively we shout louder.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's good for everybody to remember, our listeners here that who might feel like they're doing it by themselves, but really it's like we want to form community. We want to form
Yeah.
these collectives, and both for ourselves, but then also to make greater change. And if there
Yeah.
are policy gaps that need to be filled, it's like that idea of like you all rising together and having, I love that, the seat at the table, because your voice and
Yeah.
you're experienced, and yeah.
Yeah. It's great. It's good fun.
Okay, let's move on to food and
Yeah.
foraging, because that's another angle here
I
that you're
know.
doing that I love. Yes.
I
So
know.
yeah. So that's, I mean, so there's not often a lot of talk about food. I know in the States, where does school food come from? What are children eating? How is nutrition, just like being outside, how is nutrition a part of the whole system, and regulation and deregulation in our health? And gosh, I remember I did a conference in Denmark years ago, and it was a nature play, adventure play. And one day we went to elementary school, primary school, to just see what they're doing in their outdoor classrooms and their nature and all that. And then we had a nice meal. We all the people at the symposium, we were all out having this nice meal, and it was so nice. We are like, oh my gosh, is this catered? It was like, I mean, there was like brie, and there was all this fruit, vegetables, so healthy, so delicious. And they're like, no, it's not catered. This is the normal school food. And it was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, kids should be
Mhm.
eating good things and know where it comes from and be connected to it
Yeah.
all. So how did you get into that, and what are you doing with it, and yeah, where's that going?
Yeah, so part of it's from a personal experience. So my son has quite a severe nut allergy, but what also comes with that is he has bad skin, so he has really bad eczema. And I'm not one for putting, I don't enjoy a steroid cream for my children.
Yeah.
So I'm like, right, what alternatives can we look into here? And then when I started reading the back of packets, and my husband Paul was like, right, we need to cut out some ultra processed food here. Like, we need to start feeding our own kids, and maybe Angus's skin will get better. So that's what we did.
Mm,
And I was like, as we went on our own personal journey, and then, working with Little Bugs, and we have a community gardener at Little Bugs called Grant, and he has his own sanctuary garden and a big project in Dunfermline that helps adults with mental health issues. And gardening can really be therapeutic, again, for your well-being. We work with him to teach our children skills about growing and reciprocal relationships of nature. Already, that's what we were already doing at
mm,
Bugs. And we were saying to them things like, we've got our mantra of four caring responsibilities, and one of those caring aspects is, we say to our kids, we take care of all the things. And part of that was, we were telling them, we need to water the plants, or else the plants aren't going to grow and they're not going to give us food. And then we'll be hungry. Or if you rip that plant from the roots and throw it at your friend, then you're not taking care of that plant, and that plant's not going to provide anything for us. So by doing that, we were already introducing the reciprocal behaviors and the life cycle aspect of it, and just general respect. And it was helping with behavior management a lot of the time as well, and getting the kids engaged in that. So we were already working with Grant and doing that. And then at that time, the infamous Juliet Donaldson had brought out her documentation on Out to Play, which Scottish government and came spectre with her and Thrive. Out to Play, caring for our outdoor spaces. And that was talking a lot about learning for sustainability. And I thought, what is the best way we can teach our children about being sustainable is about looking at the food that is grown from Scottish larder, from all the areas that are around us. And we are on a game estate in Hopetoun. And for you guys over in the USA, Hopetoun Estate is where they filmed Outlander. So it's like mass, fields, forests, and they shoot deer there, and they manage deer, and they harvest them, and then they go to local butchers, and then they also keep pheasants, and there's a lot of pheasant shooting and things happening as well. And then we've got local farms growing organic produce and just non-organic produce. So I'm like, right, we need to start teaching our kids about food miles. So, here's a banana. Where did that come from?
Food
So we
miles.
food miles,
Yeah.
yeah. So how
Yeah.
many miles is that banana
Wow.
traveled? How many miles is that avocado traveled? That's not from our country. So it's okay to have that, but what effect is that having on the environment? And
Hmm.
why is it sometimes so expensive as well? So again, we're adding in the element of money there. And then looking, from another aspect, so we started doing that, and we had maps up in our kitchen to show the children where things were coming from in the world, and in Scotland particularly. And then we started with a Learning for Sustainability board in our setting that said, oh, it's July, it's strawberry season. So that's why we've got so many strawberries. Should we be having, if strawberries aren't in season in July, where are they coming from in those food miles? So it was giving children the view of the wider world, as
Yeah.
well. And we had so many food aversions of children coming in who were like, I'm not eating that, or like, and or their parents. It mostly came from parents like, oh no, they won't eat that. And I'm like, well, if you sit them down with their friends at a table and their friends are eating it, you're damn sure they started eating it. So that worked out really well. So that this was all really great. And then I looked at our lunch provision and I was like, our lunch provision isn't following Learning for Sustainability, and it isn't following, our whole ethos of reciprocal relationships in nature. So we reached out to one of our friends, Vas, who was at the time working in the game butcher industry, but he is a qualified chef as well. And we said to him, what do you think about this? Like, could we start using venison and potentially pheasant and other, fish, or we use wild boar as well. Could we start using that in our dishes? Could we start using seasonal veg? Could we start working with community gardens so these kids are understanding, they're growing a courgette, and then the next again week it's on their plate and they understand. He's like, yeah, let's do it. So yeah, so we started We Foragers, and that whole aspect of cutting out ultra processed foods. And I knew from the research that I had done in my time working as an additional support needs teacher that you are what you eat. And people would say to me, oh, this kid, yeah, he's got ADHD. I was like, yeah, because you're giving him Frosties and a family pack of Haribo on his way to school. He's hyper off the sugar. No wonder he can't sit and do the math.
Yeah.
So
Jeez.
so I needed to prove that as well.
Oh.
So we started, I know it's crazy. We started giving these kids this food, and they were engaging with it amazingly. They were eating it. Like the kids were eating and they're still eating it. Venison bolognese, wild boar tagine is like one of their favorites. It's crazy. Parents are like that. This is like a Michelin star restaurant.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But what our chef has also cleverly done is he is bringing in dishes that are traditionally Scottish, but he's also adding in French culinary culture, Italian culture, Indian culture. So
Uh,
all of a sudden they're seeing that we can use our ingredients that we grow in this country and we can make it, like an international dish.
wow.
And their behavior, like, so we've just launched this in at our own nurseries in October last year, and the behavior and the, again, emotional regulation of our children, because they weren't crashing on sugar or any other additive. They are so much settled, they are so happy, they're so much more engaged, they're fuller
Wow. Wow.
fuller for longer. So we're giving them lots of hearty beans, and then it means that they're more confident in their play and they're not getting upset. So the staff have less pressure of dealing with upset children because they know that these children are hungry, and everything's just come together so beautifully, to the point now where Vassar Chef is coming into our own nursery settings, and he went foraging for wild garlic last month, was the lesson, and he took the kids out, foraged for wild garlic, brought them back to our base camp, and they made homemade pasta. So, from scratch. And
Wow.
then, yeah,
Wow.
and then that's now bleeding out to other nurseries as well. So, a lot of other nurseries are taking our food provision too, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So amazing. Will you create the world education curriculum and system and just for all of us? Could you just
Oh, yeah,
get
no.
it in place? And well,
Yeah.
okay, let's just kind of maybe end on vision. Now that each one of
Yes.
these things is a full podcast, is a full But yeah, so what is your vision? What are you working towards? What would in 20 years, what would you like to see have happened? And then also like what can we all do? What would you like to,
Yeah.
what advice do you give to people as a part of that also?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say the vision for 20 years' time is to have outdoor schooling as an option, like an outdoor nursery daycare is in many countries, affordable, accessible for parents. That is the vision. I'll start in Scotland, but the vision for me is definitely international and to move. To me, children are children wherever you are in the world,
Yeah.
and child development's the same wherever you are in the world, and children need to play wherever you are in the world. The changing factors of that are weather, politics, landscape, but actually you should be learning from your own landscape. So I would say my biggest bit of advice to everybody else is look at what you guys have got around you and start from there. Don't try and force something that's not there. And we're so lucky, in Scotland that we have like all these beautiful resources that we can use, but we can't. There's times where it's really cold here, really wet here, so we have to put things in place to support the children's learning there. Equally, if you were somewhere, that was really hot, then you make sure you've got shade, make sure you've got downtime. Work with nature instead of against nature, and don't try and force stuff. Think outside the box and challenge the system at all levels, wherever you can. If you don't feel something is right, challenge it and manipulate it into a way that is right for you and your children. But yeah, I think, with Prairie and Pine, that's definitely where we're going. We're trying to spread the word to other educators, not just in Scotland, but right across the world, that this has worked in our country. Our children are the same, child development's the same. So why couldn't it work in your setting?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so you are training. You're also providing training and
Yeah.
I don't know, coaching or what's that? What's that like? How can people? What
Yeah.
would people tap your energy and
So
resources?
we are just about to launch Prairie and Pine. That will be launching at the end of summer. So it's a bit of a hidden secret just now. But we're running in-person training. So on forest kindergarten, fire, that typical stuff. We are also generating some food courses. So how to prepare healthy snacks, how to learn for sustainability and how to grow for sustainability. And yeah, a whole plethora of courses on that as well. So that's our main focus for just now, and some ecology courses as well, not just Scottish ecology. But yeah, I'm really excited because I'm actually heading over to the States. I'm attending the Nature Alliance conference in San Antonio
Uh,
next week. So
oh, good.
I'm really excited to see what aspects, where the gaps are in the world. And then I'll take it back, reflect on it, and then there'll probably be more training courses that come with that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for, giving us an overview
You're
of the
welcome.
incredible stuff that you're doing. You are so amazing and
Thanks, Rick.
so inspiring. And yeah, I just look forward to, following your work and seeing where it all goes. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks so much for
Spread it.
having me.
Yeah.
Spread it. Go big or go
Yeah,
home.
that's right. Go big or go home. Don't be quiet. Don't be quiet
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you
Thank you
so
so much.
much. All right.
Okay. Take care, Russ. See you
Bye.
soon. Bye.
All right. Thanks for listening. Do you have a comment or a question? Email me at playnaturepodcast@gmail.com. You know I like talking about this stuff. And maybe we could use your question on a future podcast episode. As always, I have some free goodies for you in the show notes, including my outdoor loose parts guide. Fun stuff in there. And so I wish you the best in your outdoor play adventures. And when it comes to adding nature to your yard, or loose parts, or saying yes to risky play, my favorite motto is dream big, start small, and never stop. Oh yeah. Woo 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 woo. Let's do it. All right. Have fun out there.